All right. Hello, everyone. I don't know who's going to join me tonight. I'm doing this one solo. And yeah, I have a big interview kind of in the works in the next week or two. And, but until that comes, I don't want the channel to sit dormant. So, in between my interviews, again, I'm going to do a lot of thought pieces and a lot of current events, related topics. There's a lot happening in the world right now. Uh, yeah, there's a lot happening in the world right now here in the YouTube streets. Many of us don't know what's a skit these days and what's real. Um, but there are more, but there are bigger things. There are big things, major things happening in the world. Two wars. Uh, yeah, I think we're still in our little economic crisis here. So there's just a lot going on. So I just wanted to say a few thoughts about the upcoming election. In just over 2 months, it will be 2024, and the whole circus is going to start. All of the propaganda and all the messaging and the stumping and the campaigning, that's all going to start. And I thought I would say a few words on that. As you know, I get articles every day when I open up my computer, specifically my Microsoft Edge. I get articles every day. And I saw three that inspired me to do this stream. I'm only going to read one of them. I'm going to kind of summarize two of them, but I'm not going to read all three. So all she says, correct, doctor. Salshi, what am I correct about? There's a lot going on, that there's two wars going on, or we're still in our financial crisis, or we don't know what's real and what's a skit these days. What are you referring to there? So I want to be clear. Again, this stream is going to be a bit of a thought piece. I do a lot of these now. I'm not telling anyone what to think. I'm not telling anyone how to vote. I'm not telling anyone what to do. I'm just creating content. And when you have a channel, you are in the business of creating content, especially when that channel is monetized. Salchi says about everything you mentioned. Okay. Well, Salchi, it's funny. The Cheesecake Factory skit. I guess it was a skit, but as I described, I guess it was art imitating life. That's the best way you could describe it. So, Crimson Cure, she made the point that while it may have been a skit, the people who made the skit got the material from somewhere. The material always comes from somewhere. So, all right, let me play my intro, and then I'm going to jump in, and then I'm going to stop. I have to get up and go make the donuts tomorrow, so I don't intend to be on long. This is not going to be a panel, or I don't have any guests planned here. Please smash that like button if you are just coming in. I want to thank everyone for the support. As I've kind of rejiggered the channel, and as I've moved to more of this podcast format, I guess it's not a pure podcast since it's live. A lot of your true podcasts are pre-recorded. They're pre-recorded. They're not live. So I want to thank everyone who's hung on and joined for this. Please smash that like button if you haven't. If you're new, please consider subscribing. Michael Ross, thank you for the $2 super sticker or chat or whatever. I appreciate that. All donations are welcome here, and those are welcome. So if you want to, if I say something tonight, if I draw something to your attention tonight that resonates with you, my Cash App and PayPal are here. And yeah, let me play the intro, and then I will jump in. Different worlds. And I think I might update this one to talk about the different, since Salchi is there in the chat, I might update this to focus on the uh, income percentages, 0.1 percenter, 1 percenter, 10 percenter, 20 percenter. I might update this. As you're a content creator, things should continue to evolve and change and not get stale. All right. Because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. Well, gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for this second discussion on this controversial but important topic. Do either of you have any parting words?
I do. And it's just thank you for having us. I really appreciate it. You ask questions in such a way that I don't know what your perspective is. I think as a host, that's exactly perfect. It's difficult, but you get more on the table from guests if you're not the story. And I really, really appreciate talking to you.
All right. I appreciate that.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Anwar.
Because of where I come from, see, in this world, we're all living in different worlds, and not everybody is privy to the same information. All right, so different worlds, different worlds, different worlds, different worlds. So in about a month, it'll be time for Thanksgiving. If you celebrate it, my family celebrates it. I look forward to it. And at Thanksgiving, well, depending upon how big your family is and how big the gathering is, you're bringing together different generations. And when you're bringing together different generations, you're bringing together different experiences, different ways of thinking, and you're bringing together different ways of feeling the world and experiencing the world. So everyone, well, not everyone, but most people post Gen X and post. We're used to technology. We're used to the smartphones and the Twitters and the TikToks. TikTok is on and popping. I'm seeing the TikTok stuff through other people. I'm not over there. I have a TikTok, which I barely use, but TikTok is on and popping. I think those of you in the chat know what I mean. I mean, there are a lot of content creators here on YouTube creating content off of the craziness that's happening over on TikTok. But at the Thanksgiving dinner table, at least in my family, we have people living literally in different worlds. They're the boomers. The boomers get a lot of attention here in the YouTube streets, and they have their way of looking at the world. They have their way of perceiving things, and then the subsequent generations have their way of perceiving things, and we're exposed to different kinds of information, and that shapes our perception of the world. So the interview, well, first of all, before I jump in, I mean, he posted it on his community tab, so he let it be known. But I want to send a prayer out to Uncle Ron Wills for something he just experienced health-wise. Over on my Science and Technology channel, I made a short today encouraging everyone, especially if you're post 40, take care of your health, be proactive about your health, your diet, your everything. If you're sitting in front of a computer most days, make sure you get up and move, make sure you exercise, make sure you get the food, try to eat good food. I mean, occasionally when I'm traveling, I'll have some McDonald's or some Burger King or something. But for most of your week, try to eat something healthy and natural. And over on my STEM channel, I did share with my audience over there that for most of this year, I've been working on it. I don't know what the new numbers will be, but my cholesterol numbers, my LDL and HDL are out of whack in the wrong direction. So I'm working to get that under control. But everyone try to be safe and healthy out there. Okay, so the next big interview, guys, put this on your radar. I'm finishing up Dr. T.S.N. Johnson's book. So Dr. Johnson has agreed to come for a Q&A. So that's going to be fun. That's probably going to offend somebody. He's from the academy. In my own way, I'm from the academy as well. But Dr. Johnson says some very compelling things in this book. Solutions for Anti-Black Misandry, Flat Blackness, and Black Male Death. I am just about at the end. And I think one of the, and we're going to talk about this in depth, but I think one of the underlying things that Dr. Johnson is communicating in this book is that information that's not shared or skewed information can shape the minds of the people receiving that information. So in other words, there are a lot of issues, and I'm not going to give this away. I really don't want to give this away, but there are a lot of issues about the lives of Black men that are not talked about and that are not covered in a meaningful way. So there are a lot of things that are basically flying under the radar that are going unaddressed, which are causing a lot of problems in the communities in which they are occurring. Give me a second here. I'm going to pull up a slide. Where is my my fourth estate slide? Okay. I have so many pictures here. Let's see, the fifth estate. Where is, there it is. Okay. On my channels, we should always learn something. Less clickbait, more learning. I don't ever want to be accused of chasing clickbait again. Okay, so the fourth estate, the media. I was thinking as I was working out I was doing stairs today, but I was thinking earlier that he or she who holds the pen has the power. Have any of you all heard the phrase or the slogan, "The pen is mightier than the sword"? Well, I believe that to be true, because when you have the pen, when you're writing history, when you're sharing the stories, when you're deciding what news gets out, you're shaping the minds of the masses. Since we just mentioned Uncle Ron Wills, he talks about that a lot on his Deep Thought channel. So when you can control minds, that's a lot of power. And so this is the fourth estate. What these two pyramids are showing you is that in most societies, the press typically occupies that fourth rung in society, and that was historically and in modern times. So if you take a look at this again, you see at the top of the pyramid, there's the legislature, the judiciary, the executive branch. So you have the government, you have the press, then you have businesses, and you have consumers. Now, I got this from this concept of the fourth estate from reading Reginald Lewis's autobiography, or his biography, because he didn't write that himself. But Reginald Lewis, the first Black billionaire in the United States, he had battles with the press. They did not want the business media, the business writers, they did not want to give him the proper credit for building his business empire. And so he had a couple of scuffles with the media over who he was, over his intelligence level, and over proper coverage of how he built his empire. So perception is a big deal, and the people reporting the news and reporting the information is a big deal. And that's a major theme of Dr. Johnson's book, and we're going to talk about that when he comes. But I also, before I get into these 3 articles, this is happening in the education system too. Over on my Science and Technology channel, I have taken an interest in the climate change debate, because it is a debate. There are actually 2 arguments there, which I'm not going to get into, but it's at a point now where kids are, one fear is that kids are being indoctrinated, not just in terms of gender and gender identity. They're not just being indoctrinated about that in K through 12. They're also being indoctrinated in terms of science and in terms of what science is and what scientific thought is and what the scientific process is. And one of the big areas is climate. So I was watching a stream on the Tom Nelson channel, and there's a whole community of people out there who argue that carbon dioxide is actually good. And I better stop this here. But the whole point is transfer of information. What information are you passing to people? Is it accurate? Is it bad? Is it good? Is it skewed? I left the link for that video in the description box below in case any of you want to watch it, in case any of you have children. The younger generation is being indoctrinated with a lot of things in the public school system now, and there are more people homeschooling their children. So, Dr. Dunbar, what does this have to do with anything? Well, again, the election's coming up next year, and the machine is about to ramp up. We're about to get hit with a lot of stuff. All right, so I'm going to put on my my Art Newstall TV hat right now, and we're going to go over some current events. The first 2 I'm going to fly through. I'm going to show you guys the titles. I'll put the links in the chat. I'm not putting them in the description box because YouTube, if YouTube thinks that your links are spam, they will go through your description box and scrub out your description box if they think the articles you're leaving are spam. So I'm going to show these first 2. I'm going to read the last one. It's short. All right. Salchi says, yes, that's why books are burned throughout history. Yep, there's a big battle. And there's a big battle now over what books are being allowed in schools, what histories and what stories our children are being allowed to learn, because that's shaping their perception. It's going to shape how they vote. It's going to shape how they spend. It's going to shape everything. So the information matters, and those who control the information, that matters quite a bit. So I'm going to put on my Art Newstall hat right now. All right. So this first piece, I saw this piece or versions of this in my browser several times. And I thought it was interesting. I'm sure some of you have seen this too. This one is called, let me change that. And I'm going to pray that StreamYard acts well tonight. This one is called An Unexpected Encounter Between Waitress and Red-Hatted Customers with Shocking Results. So this is dated, it was published on May 31st, 2023. And I think the actual story takes place back in was it the 2016 election or the 2020 election? In any case, here in the DMV, there are a set of restaurants, Salchi knows this, called Busboys and Poets. The food there is really good. The first one is right there near Howard University on U Street. Part of the restaurant is like a bookstore, and then the rest of it is a restaurant. And at least for that one on 14th Street and U Street, there's an actual stage. So sometimes they do poetry night. So it's got this eclectic bohemian library bookstore thing going on. So in this particular article, in this particular story, this waitress, where'd she go? There she is. What's her name? Rosalind Harris. Rosalind Harris. She was waiting tables at Busboys and Poets, and some MAGA guys walked in wearing their MAGA hats. And folks in the restaurant said, "Oh my God, it's the MAGA guys. They're here." So as many of you know, a lot of people became unhinged just seeing the MAGA hats. All right. Even if the MAGA people were behaving themselves and not doing anything, some people, some anti-MAGA people became really, really unhinged just at the sight of seeing those MAGA hats and those people wearing those MAGA hats. And there's some pretty disturbing video online of people attacking the MAGA people and ripping MAGA hats off and assaulting those people just for wearing those MAGA hats. So long story short, these guys come in the restaurant. She has to wait on these guys. She reluctantly does it. And what ends up happening is one of the guys writes something on the receipt to the effect of, we may come from different cultures and we may be different, but at the end of the day, we're all the same. So in other words, we may be different. We may be on different sides of the political aisle, but we are still a part of the same country, and we have more in common than we are led to believe. So I think this is an important story. I don't think stories like this get enough press and airplay in our country. And I think that what's sexy is to focus on the divisions as opposed to focusing on people looking to find a common ground. So I think that's what I gleaned from that story. She thought that there was about to be a bunch of drama in the restaurant, and the guys turned out to actually be nice. So beware of what you're being fed through the fourth estate, through the mainstream media. I'm not putting this underneath in the description box. As I said, YouTube is scrubbing certain things out. They might consider this spam. If any of you guys want to have this link, it is here. That's a long link. Let me make sure this is still broadcasting. All right, that's a long link, but you guys saw the title of it. It's called An Unexpected Encounter Between Waitress and Red-Headed Customers with Shocking Results. All right, so this one, that link might be too long for the chat. All right, this next one stood out to me. This one is called, let's see, Californians moving to Arizona could upend 2024 election. So the demographics of the country are changing. I mean, we're not just getting more people from south of the border and God knows where else, but the population is redistributing itself. And it's been talked about for a while that people are fleeing California for places like Texas, for places like Colorado, and also for neighboring Arizona. So apparently it's very, very expensive to live in California, and it's kind of turned into its own. I think Banana Republic is the right term. And the question is, what's going to happen when all of those people from California move to other states that have traditionally been red? Are those states now going to turn blue? Or will those states continue to be red states? So I'm not going to read this piece. It's kind of medium length. It'll just take more time. But this one stood out to me earlier because for this election, the electoral map may look different than it did in 2016 and 2020. Salchi says, yeah, Californians have relocated to Texas, Arizona, and Colorado. So in theory, that will put fewer people in California, though it may just be the wealthy people leaving California, the rich people, the upwardly mobile people. So they may be leaving behind people who are not doing so well, who may still keep that state blue. But the question is, when they go to, I think Colorado always goes blue, but when they go to Texas and when they go to Arizona, what's going to happen to Texas and Arizona? Who knows? We will see. Now, this last piece, again, you can look that up online. It's called Californians Moving to Arizona Could Upend 2024 Election. Okay, so I'm going to read this last one. This one is short, but it's being discussed on the YouTube streets. I think it's trickled out into the mainstream. And I think this dovetail. Sometimes I don't know how to use some of these words correctly, but I think this dovetails into part of Dr. Johnson's book, right? So this one is entitled, and this is no surprise to anyone in the chat because people, at least in the digital spaces, have been talking about this almost daily in the context of reparations. All right, this piece is entitled Shock Poll, Democrat support from Black voters plummets. This is 1 day ago. I think that's Sharice Lane. Those of you who are in the on Twitter, some of you guys may know who Sharice Lane is. She's a younger Black conservative female. Can I say female? Is that against the rules? She's a young Black woman conservative. Okay. And I think she was in Mr. Samuel's The Mixed Group as well. But I think that's Sharice Lane. All right. Politico has reported poll numbers revealing that Black voters are increasingly abandoning support for the Democratic Party. After a lot of hand-wringing in recent years, elections next month in Mississippi and Virginia, two southern states with large Black populations, will offer one final robust read going into 2024 on the extent of the slippage among Democrats' most reliable block of voters, Politico reported. Now, there are people who don't know that this is going on. So there are people who will, if by chance Uncle Joe and Kamala lose in 2024, there are going to be a lot of people wondering what happened and why, if their voting numbers fall, there are going to be people wondering why did their voting numbers fall. Okay, I know that my mom, bless her, you know, she's my mom, and she watches MSNBC every night. So depending upon which outlet you're looking at, you're going to get certain pieces of information or you're not. So I don't know how much they're covering that, but there are people who don't know that this is going on. There are people who don't know that this push for reparations has continued to trend upwards. And if Biden doesn't get reelected, some people are going to be scratching their heads and they're going to be wondering what happened. But Dr. Johnson's book, this also plays a role in this as well. All right. While Black voters have historically leaned heavily on the left, President Joe Biden's approval rating among the voting bloc has been disastrous, leaving many in the party wondering what may happen in 2024. A lot of people are afraid about the election, afraid of the chaos that might surround the election. And after attending the CBC annual conference last month, some people in that camp are they kind of feel like Biden shouldn't still be up there. So there's a lot of uncertainty and fear on the Democratic side, but also in the country in general. Just this week, a prominent Democratic data firm published a report outlining declining support for Democrats in last year's midterm elections among younger Black voters, Black men, and Black voters without college degrees. What does that tell you? Especially the without college degrees part. And then that begs the question, who is the most degreed? Who are they voting for? So we're seeing a lot of separations and partitionings here. All right. I'm going to read that again. That's powerful. Just this week, a prominent Democratic data firm published a report outlining declining support for Democrats in last year's midterm elections among younger Black voters, Black men, and Black voters without college degrees, stated Politico. In the meantime, okay, here we go. In the meantime, former President Donald Trump continues to widen his lead over President Joe Biden in a head-up matchup. Okay, I'm not going to click that link, but this data says this: Trump is beating Biden 46% to 41%, with 14% being undecided, which is up 44% to 40% in September, according to a Harvard Capps/Harris survey. In a three-way race with Kennedy garnering 19% of the share, Trump held 90% support compared to Biden's 33%, with 9% remaining undecided. Trump's margin increases by 2 points against Biden in a four-way matchup with Kennedy and Cornel West, who garnered 3% support, according to the poll. Trump is leading the field among independent voters, 39%, 31%, and 31%, respectively. Okay, so those numbers could change. That's a snapshot, but this piece stood out to me as it is, it's saying a lot. It's saying a lot about why. Okay, how much should I say about this? This link, I'm going to drop the link here. This is the title if you want to Google it yourself. Shock poll, Democrat support from Black voters plummets. I'll drop the link right here. I think this says a lot about, that's a long, these are some long links. Let me see if that goes through. All right, that went through in one message. But I think this says a lot about, there's a lot of fear surrounding this trial, these endless trials that number 45 is embroiled in. And I think there are a lot of people who are afraid that he's going to come through that somehow and he's still going to be able to run. And those numbers suggest that he would beat President Biden today. So there's a lot of fear surrounding that. But that article, it stated that, let's see, young Black voters, Black men, and Black voters without college degrees. those groups have started to peel away. The question is why. The answers are many. But so where does the immigration thing come in? Where's the migrant crisis come in? Well, one of the theories for the migrant crisis is that those people are being brought to replace this voting bloc that's fracturing, or they're being brought in to fortify and solidify this voting base that's being fractured, and in many ways to replace the parts that are falling away. So there's a complex mixture of things going on right now, going into 2024. And at this point, nobody knows what's going to happen. All of this is unprecedented. Let's see. T. Riddler says he invoked Cori Bush. Birthing persons is the term. So maybe that's how we were supposed to refer to women right now. He says, here we go, blame black men. So yeah, so if President Trump gets back in there, and the Democratic vote is fractured and a critical mass of black men fall away or depart, I shouldn't say fall away, if they vote with their feet and walk away. Some people are even thinking about taking a knee during this election and not participating at all. But I think the one group, the group without college degrees, I think that's significant. That implies that there's a class thing going on, and that implies that those people are probably going through things that degreed people are not, or maybe they just fundamentally think differently than that class of degreed people. That doesn't include young black voters or black men. Michael Ross says, I haven't voted since 2012 for Obama. Neither of these parties are putting forth any policies for black people, but more specifically, black men. Okay, that's a good point. Dr. Johnson addresses that in his book. He drafted or he captured a political plan that focuses exclusively on the needs for black men, which is very interesting because I don't think any of us have ever seen something like that. And but certainly we've seen, I'm thinking about Ice Cube and the Fox Soul Queens. We've seen the opposite of that. We've never seen an agenda advocating strictly for the needs and wants of black men. So Salchi says, white women are the largest voting demographic. Interesting. I didn't know that. Okay. So everyone, that's and you know what, in terms of your vote, again, I'm not here to tell anybody what they should do. All right. I'm just kind of I'm trying to be an objective observer and disseminator of the information. But what you do with your vote is your choice because it's yours. So if you choose not to, if you choose to take a knee, that's up to you. If you choose to vote red, that's up to you. If you choose to vote blue, no matter who, that's up to you. If you choose to vote for Cornell West, that's up to you as well. What I would encourage people to do is try to understand the policies and understand what the person is running on. There's a reason. I remember during the please smash that like button if you haven't. I'm wrapping this stream up. This is just a thought piece covering current events and a little bit of politics, not telling people what to do or who to vote for, which is covering it from a 30,000 foot level. So I remember when Al Gore, I talked about the climate discussion a little earlier, When he ran for president against George W. Bush, one of the things that came up was, is he likable? Is so-and-so likable? So I think that there's a critical mass of people in this country who don't need to know the policies and don't care to know about the policies as long as they like the candidate. If the candidate can dance, if the candidate could play the sax, if the candidate looks like them, if it's quote unquote time for that type of candidate to be elected, a lot of American voters are swayed on appearances and symbolism and likability. So likability matters. Unfortunately, sometimes it matters more than the policies. But I would encourage people, what I would say, not telling people what to do. Think about the policies and think about the long-term ramifications of the policies, and try to be aware, try to be knowledgeable on what's being discussed beyond what the fourth estate is telling you, beyond the fear porn that the major news outlets are feeding you. Try to understand the issues and the arguments in their entirety. So, as an example, I've talked about the climate debate on my science and technology channel. It's very complex. I'll just say that. It's very, very complex. And to understand it in its entirety and to make an informed decision on it, you have to do some reading, especially if you don't have a background in the sciences. Okay, I have a background in pharmacology, but that's a different set of disciplines. So I'm interested in it. So it's not hard studying, it's not hard work, but to understand both sides of the argument, there's some research involved. And in today's world, in today's society, how many citizens in our country have the curiosity and the discipline to sit down and study something that they're unfamiliar with? We talked about him earlier. Ram encouraged that on his channel. Try to understand both sides of an argument. Try to take your emotions out of it. Try to understand both sides. I'm going to end with this. So the climate thing, I brought a book. I've been listening to a lot of content from one side, but I brought a book from an individual from the other side. And it was in large part because of what Ram said on his channel about understanding both sides. And that's another problem today with our country, is people don't want to know what the other person thinks without attacking them if they think the opposite way, and if they see things differently. So I think we've lost that. We need to get that back somehow. And I think that was the significance of that first article that I showed you all. Those guys who walked into that Busboys and Poets, those MAGA guys who walked into the Busboys and Poets, they turned out to not be bad guys. So let's see. JJ Mars says, I plan to vote independent just to protest Biden. Is anyone else wondering where all this money's coming from? I mean, the reparations folks are wondering. They're saying, okay, well, you got all this money to give to, the Ukraine, and you have all this money to give to Israel. The people watching this is not me saying this. This is another group saying this. I'm just communicating what's going on here. But the reparations group, they're saying, well, you have the money to give to the Ukraine. You have the money to give to Israel. Where's our money? And I'm wondering, where does if our country is this far in debt, these are the questions people need to ask. if our country is this far in debt, where's all this money coming from? Or are they just printing it? Salchi, are they just printing it? Are they just at the press printing the money? I don't understand. And then I like getting a refund check, but where does the IRS have the money to give people like me refund checks if we're so far in debt and if we're sending all this money overseas? Yeah, it just, none of this makes any sense. Does this make sense to any of you all? The last thing I'll say is this. I was talking to a mentor. A couple of weeks ago, and I think we're going to collab here. He's an older Italian gentleman. So all my guests over here, they're going to vary in color and ethnicity if I have my way. But he's from education, and we both started talking about, and this kind of, dovetails into Dr. Johnson's book. I mean, this isn't restricted to Black boys. It's boys across the spectrum, but there's some writers and some content creators are talking about the problems that boys are having in this country, but it's not being talked about widely until you talk about why there aren't enough eligible men for the college-educated women. But there's not a lot of talk. Some people are talking about it, and I told my mentor, the politician who says something about that we need to do something for the boys, we need to fix the boy problem, maybe we need to set up separate schools for boys. I told him that politician will probably get my vote because nobody else is talking about it and nobody else seems to care. So who's going to be the first one to address that? Okay. Salchi says, I'm going to wrap this up. It's simple for me. I review the policies each politician has signed. Isada says, doesn't seem to be anything to vote for. Maybe have to withhold my vote. So Isada might take a knee in 2024. And people get criticized for not voting. They say, well, not voting is like voting for the other side. You're going to help the Republicans get in there. And then the other sentiment is that they're two wings on the same bird. So you think you're voting for something different, but it's all one machine. It's all one party. Behind closed doors, they're all friends. So JJ Marr says, on the local level, I vote for the right person who does not ignore ADOS/FBA issues. Salchi says, the fact is that the lion's share of political campaigns are funded by corporations and the wealthy. Yeah, that's the other part of it. The money. So they can, a given candidate can capitulate and pander to a specific group, but at the end of the day, it's the money. I've heard that from several people. Let's see. Michael Ross says 106 billion to be exact. I think, is that the dollar amount going to Ukraine or Israel, or is that, I thought our debt was in the trillions. T-Row says America has money for and what America wants to have money for. Salchi says the test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. Salchi, I'm going to read that again. The test of a first-rate intelligence is the ability to hold two opposing ideas in mind at the same time and still retain the ability to function. That's by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Thank you for that. Okay. Should I read this one? JJ Marr says Biden-Harris are happy to give Black America Hip Hop Day or Juneteenth, but no real policy. One of the criticisms of Juneteenth was that was a concession, or the concession for the Black voting bloc. Michael Ross says, mine too, Doc. I would vote for whoever offers that as the number one issue. It's gonna affect all of us at some point, so someone needs to speak up on it sometime soon. If you have a critical mass of if most of your boys and young men are falling behind, that's gonna cause a big problem for everybody. So someone needs to step up and start talking about it. Salchi says, Congress. Salchi, what is this? Let me click the link. That is not a live link. Let me see if I can highlight it. This is 2040. Oh, U.S. security assistance to Ukraine. Okay, well, everyone, if you want that link, Salty just shared that link. It's right there in the chat. I don't know how to interpret this data, but I will save a copy of this for myself after the stream is over. Salty, you stay with the data, just like Dana. Dana with the data. Everyone, please smash that like button if you haven't. I have my Art Newstall hat on right now. Shout out to Art Newstall. Michael Ross says facts. I'll read these last two. Isada says a school for boys. They'd have my vote too. I think boys and girls should be schooled separately. And then Aaron approves loans. Aaron, thank you for stopping through. He says business controls politics, not the other way around. One of these jokers is going to implement a monetary policy. Need to make sure my family is on the right side of it. You know what? I've heard that there's a change taking place. There's a permanent change taking place. And if you're not on the right side of that change, it's going to be permanent. I don't know much more than that, but I'm just letting you know what I've heard up to this point about what's happening with the country and where this is all going. All right, everyone. I have managed to talk for 52 minutes, and I have to go in the office and make the donuts tomorrow. The donuts filled with federal regulations, laws, and statutes as they relate to a specific class of chemical. So I should go ahead and wind this down. But thank you to all of you who hung out in the chat and let me know what you thought. Salchi, thank you for the link. Michael Ross, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. I mean, I would say that this one is filler until I can get Dr. Johnson and other guests on here. But yeah, in between my interviews, these are the kinds of things that I'm going to do. So thank you for your support. So everyone, you guys know who I am. For the new people, this is Big Discussions 76, my original channel. Please like, share, and subscribe, especially if you are new. If you want to donate something to the channel, you can donate via my Cash App or PayPal. You can also leave a super thanks. And I think everyone in the chat knows about my newsletter, so I'm not going to talk about that. The link for my newsletter is in the description box below. Yeah, and I think I will wrap this up here. And I think I've said everything that I've wanted to say. So keeping my fingers crossed that I get this book done in the next day or two. The next time you see me, it should be a Q&A, a scholarly, collegial Q&A with Dr. T. Hassan Johnson regarding his new book. Michael says the amount Biden asked Congress for to fund foreigners. What's that amount? Isada says, have a good evening, everyone. Isada, you as well. Thank you for your continued support. All right, everyone, you guys know how I end. As always, remember that your attitude determines your altitude. Always try to do your best. Take care, and I will talk to you the next time. You know what? I'll do this one other thing since I'm still here. If any of you all are on Fascist Book, that's a joke. Facebook fascist book. I started a I started this. There is now a Big Words LLC Facebook page, and I just started this because my last Facebook page, the Big Words blog site Facebook page, someone approached me to monetize it and collaborate with it, and now I don't have control over it anymore. There's a Latino Hispanic gentleman named Canelo or Carlo or something or other whose face is on that page. So I don't have control over that page anymore. So if there's stuff, if you liked that page years ago and you're getting stuff from it, that's not me. But I did start this. This is the Big Words LLC Facebook page. This will be the platform that I can share in terms of Facebook. I'll share most of my content over here. Not everything is appropriate for my personal Facebook page. Not everybody can take everything as a mature adult. Going back to that comment Salty made from F. Scott Fitzgerald. So quick announcement, if you're on Facebook and you want to follow my content, print and video, look up the Big Words LLC Facebook page. It's attached to my personal Facebook account. I'm a little careful about who I accept as friends today. If I don't know you, it's a long story, but people are tagging you in all kinds of things, and things are showing up on Facebook that you didn't want to show up there. And anyway, all right, everyone, have a good night. I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.